Welcome to part 3 of the Akāl Ustati exploration. Today we're looking at Svaiyye, the 10 Svaiyye meters, the third section of Akāl Ustati. We just finished looking at the second section where Guru Gobind Singh is talking about divinity, and he's locating divinity across all time and space, across and through all different types of action, perceived good and bad as well. People who are very consciously aware of themselves, other people who are peacefully sleeping, beggars and people giving out money to those beggars, great kings, people performing Vedic sacrifice and people doing the exact opposite, across all types of virtue or qualities, sorgun sametho, but also trigunatit, right, beyond any type of quality. And at the end of this, and this is a little tip when looking at Akāl Ustati, the last line usually is really the essence of this verse, and it kind of points us to what Guru Gobind Singh really wants to get across here. And he's saying like Sarabakal across all time, Sarabator across all space, Ik se lagatho, that the divinity appears as one, right? No matter who it is, what they're doing, where it is, etc. Now that leads us to the third meter here, Svaiyye. Now this is really important because this composition is recited during the Amrit Sanchar when anybody takes Khande Deepol. It is also part of the prescribed Nityanim, the morning recitation of prayers that Sikhs do. So exploring this verse is going to be really important to us. Now, the Uttanika, or the historical context that some commentators provide for this section, is Guru Gobind Singh is met by a king named Ratan Rai. This is from Assam. He comes to Guru Gobind Singh. His father was a Sikh of Guru Tegh Bahadur. He brings with him many different offerings, including the Prasaad, the elephant, and some other weapons and seats as well. Now, Guru Gobind Singh, in speaking to the emperor or the king of Assam, he was then writing these verses, and these verses are related to that king, or specifically in conversation with that king. So other commentators give different accounts of this, and we're going to just look at one here. This is a Rantir Singh, footnotes that Renunciation Singh has provided for Dasam Granth. One of the best resources you can have for Dasam Granth. Here at the bottom of this, he puts footnotes where he says basically that Guru Gobind Singh is in conversation with the different hill Raje, or the hill kings at this point, along with the different Masans, right? So he's creating the Khalsa just prior to the Amrit Sanchar ceremony, essentially. And he's in conversation with the different hill kings, and he points to the 7th and 8th verse, if you see here. He points to these verses as being actually speaking about the Khalsa. So we're going to actually explore those verses in a little bit and kind of think through how Guru Gobind Singh could be mentioning the Khalsa in that context. So the Svaiyye is a really important section to look at, and it begins with the invocation Tuai Prasaad, that with your grace, right? And the Svaiyye is Svaiyya for plural. So if you want to look up what the Svaiyya is, look into Mahan Kosh. It's a brilliant resource. Again, you go citigranth.org and you'll find, you can just type in, this is how you want to spell Svaiyya for the entry. And when you look it up, you'll see that Gansing Namba has provided a definition, but more importantly, he has provided various different types of Svaiyas. So here, there's a Svaiyya called Bir Svaiyya, and the second one is called Barn Svaiyya, and so on. Actually, if you go all the way down, you'll see there's 34 different types of Svaiyya that are listed here, and the mechanics of them are also provided. It's very, very useful. Now, if you look at the 10th one here, which is also called, Gansing Naba notes that this type of Svaiyya is also called Bijay Chand, or the victorious meter. And Gansing Naba has listed here the notation of it. So this is, I believe, the 7th verse of the section that we're looking at. But essentially all the Svaiyas in this section have this construction. So the construction goes long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, etc. There's 7 of these. And then you end with a long, long. So if we go back here and we look at the construction here, you can see it goes Srav, Suddha, Samu, Sadan, Ke, Deg, Friyo, Karajog, Jatike. And the long parts, those are basically going to be stressed syllables. So you have long, short, short. You have long. The adak here is going to be considered long. So you have long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short. And even though this is a long, for poetic meter, when you're constructing it, you can put a long there and consider that to be a short as well. So we're going to consider that for poetic sake a short, and you have long, short, short, and then this is going to be kind of joined together. That can happen as well, where you can count 2 letters as one. This is going to be long, short, short, long, short, short, long, long, right? So you have that 7 long, short, shorts, and then you have the long, long, and you're going to see throughout this that it's going to maintain that meter across the entire text. So that is called the Indav Svaiyye, also called a Bijay Chand or Bijay Svaiyye. Now we're going to look at essentially where Guru Gobind Singh is talking through different types of practices, different types of people, and he's then really going to reorient us to the main concept that we're going to see through Akāl Ustati, called prema bhagati, or devotional love, devotional type of loving practice. So it starts off here. Guru Gobind Singh says, "Saravaga suddha samu sadan ke dekh phriyo kar jog jati ke." That, I have seen dekh phriyo. I've kind of seen with my own eyes, essentially, all of these different types of people roaming around. I've seen Jain ascetics. I've seen here it says Siddhan, and this is something that we're going to see in this meter, where you have Siddh is the name of these yogis, essentially Nath yogis, and then you have the Kanna on the Tadda here. Essentially, Siddhan is the plural, but you can also put a Kanna, you can elongate where need be in these types of meters. So that's why you have Siddhan instead of just Siddhan for the plural of Siddh. And we're going to see that going through this meter as well, that type of construction. So I've seen Sravak, Jain ascetics, Soda, these pure types of people, Samu, all of them, the Siddhs, the Siddhas and Nath yogis, Dekh Phriyo Kar Jog, the Jogis, the Jatis or the celibates. Kar here can mean darshan, can mean a type of philosophy, right? But he's saying, I've seen all of these types of people, right? Then he says, Sur, Surardana, Suddha, Sodadak, Santa, Sumu, Anek Matike. I've seen sants, Samu, all of them, of many difference, Anek Matike. He's also seen warriors. He's seen Surardan. Surardan is actually 2 words together, Ardan and Sura. And that means the gods, but those who kill the gods, or those who fight the gods, right? So this is a term used for demons. The pure Sodadik. Sod, again, this is 2 words again, Soda and then Adik, meaning, the ones of Amrit. Adik means of, in that sense, can also mean etc. And Soda meaning Amrit. So in Indic mythology, the people that receive Amrit when they churn the ocean are the Devtas. And so that's why we're seeing the term here used, Sodadik. So great warriors, demons, the Devtas. Guru Gobind Singh saying, I've seen all of these types of people, even all these, different types of saints, etc. Sare hi desh ko dekh rahe ho, mat ko na dekhe ta pran pati ke. That I've seen all these, people in all different types of regions as well. Sare hi desh ko dekh rahe ho mat, the different types of mat, different types of ideology across all these different types of regions. But really, ko na dekhe ta pran pati ke. I've not seen dekhe anybody go of pranpati, of the pati, of the husband or the master of life, right? Pran meaning breath, but here it's basically using that term for divinity. But he's saying, I've not seen anybody actually of Vaheguru, of Rab, of Hari, right? And then here we see an orientation that's really important for Guru Gobind Singh. He's saying, without these things, you're not worth anything. He says, Sri Bhagwan ki pai kripa hunte ek rati bin ek rati ke. He says, Sri Bhagwan, again, this means divinity, the exalted Bhagwan. Pai here is going to mean bhavana, or love. Kripa meaning grace. From this, without this, ek rati meaning one, rati, priti. But rati or priti meaning love. But rati can also mean essentially being immersed, being drenched, right? Being submersed in this type of loving devotion. In this mode of loving devotion, right? Because prem here is actually not just an emotion. It's actually how you frame all types of engagement and any type of action that you're going to do. And that's what's really important here. Because as we go through Akāl Ustati and even this section, you're going to see a lot of criticism, especially in not the next verse, but the verse following that. A lot of criticism related to action in specific, right? And it's not that certain action or certain type of religious practice or certain type of ritual is not beneficial. I believe it's more to the fact that the mode of engagement has to be through a loving devotional practice, and with that mode then you can engage in certain practice, but practice in and of itself is not beneficial. So here he says Sri Bhagwan ki pai kripa hunte, without Bhagwan ki pavana, Bhagwan ki kripa, or that ekrati, that Bhagwan ki priti, right? The love or this kind of immersive devotional engagement. Without that, without the grace of divinity, without the love of divinity, you're basically ekrati. Without that, you're just ekrati. Your worth is essentially just one rati, right? One rati. If you want to look that up, here they use the word iota. You can look rati up as basically 8 types of. It's a very small measurement. This is an old school measurement. It's basically you have 8 grains of rice, right? That is the measurement. You're worth that much without the grace of the divine, without love of the divine, and without being immersed totally in kind of a devotional practice. So remind you, people have talked about this verse being the context of it being related to Ratanarai, this king from Assam, and in that we can see that first Guru Gobind Singh is talking about devotional practice, how that's important, trumps any type of, look, you have all those type of sadhus there, you have all these types of holy people here, but none of that matters without, having a devotional practice. And then he's talking about royalty, he's talking about sovereignty, he's talking about basically the treasury of kings. He's saying, Mate matang jare jar sang anup atang sarang savare, that you can have mate matang, you can have intoxicated elephants. Now, elephants are really important, not only to the historical context of this conversation, given that Ratanarai gave this amazing Prasaad, this white elephant to Guru Gobind Singh, but also that elephants actually are a sign of sovereignty, right? Those people that have elephants are exceptionally high within the, let's say, the hierarchy of the Mughal Raj, but even prior to that, right? So elephants hold specific significance, right? Here Guru Gobind Singh says that you can have these intoxicated elephants, which would be used in wartime. They could be basically embedded, so the fabric on top of them could be embroidered with gold threads and silver threads. They can be anup, they can be so beautiful, utang, so high up, of many different colors. They can be kind of decorated, savare, kind of mounted up. You can have court, you can have millions of torang horses, right? Kurang se kudat, that they could basically jump, or they can have the agility like Kurang is deer. Paon ke gon ko jat navare, that they go so fast they basically go through the wind, right? That's how fast these horses are. Pari pujan ke pupa pali bid. Nyavadasis najat bachare, that you can have the kings of great arms. Puja means arm, pujana or pujana means arms in the plural, who have great, hefty arms, right? As in they have very large armies. Pali bid, with great etiquette and manners. Nyavadasis, right? That they bow their heads to you, and essentially, right? So many of them, not jat bachare. But even then, O king. Now this can be read 2 ways. The pupat here can be read as evocative, as calling out to the king, saying, so if you're reading this in terms of that historical context, you can say, O king, O Ratanarai, if you have this, then what have you got? As in, so what? Why? Antko nange pai padare, that at the end of your life, antko, naked nange hi pai feet padare, you're going to leave basically this world with naked feet. right? It's not meaningful. It doesn't last, right? It's only temporary. All of these things. You can also read this and say, "Ete pai tan kahan pai pupata." Pupati means like if these emperors had all of this, then again, so what? That at the end of their life, they will go with bare feet. And again, moving forward, again thinking about royalty and if it's even worth anything to have all these large treasuries, etc., or to be able to conquer all these lands. He says, "Jeet fere sab desh dasan ko, bajta tola mardang nagare," that you can defeat everybody. Jeet fere, roaming around like a chakravarti raja, right? A raja who can go into any space at any time and be successful, be victorious. Sab all desa desan ko, right? In all types of regions, right? Within and externally. Bhajata, just playing your war drums, your tols, your mardang is a type of drum as well, and nagare are a type of war drums as well. Gunjat gura gajan ke sundara hinsad hai raj hajare. So you can have sundari, beautiful elephants, right? Gajan, again, just like pujan is the plural of puja or pujan. You can also say gajan is the plural of gaj, meaning elephants. So you can have these beautiful elephants who are gunjat, who are kind of roaring out, gur, so loudly, right? Hinsat, you can have these heraj, these beautiful horses, the best horses, right? Raj, the heraj, the king of all horses. You can have thousands of them, and you can have them hinsant. You can have them neighing, right? That you have emperors, but like this, in the past, in the present, and they will be in the future. You can't even count how many there have been like this, or they will be, or they are right now, right? So what's important then? That, you know, the master, the pati of Siri, Lakshmi. So here you can have Guru Gobind Singh is using Vaishnava terminology, but talking about the divine, saying Siri Bhagwan, that ultimate divine, right? Without the worship of that divine, without kind of a loving relationship with the divine. And again, loving relationship with the divine, what does that mean? According to the previous verse, Guru Gobind Singh sees that across all types of action, right? Across all types of people. And we're going to see that later on, the very famous line where Guru Gobind Singh says, Manas ki jad sabe ke pehchan bhar, right? That understand all different types of people as just one, right? But that one, again, is that divinity. So going back to this idea that without the worship of that divinity, without the love, right, for that divinity, they're basically, you're going to leave for your final abode, right? As in, you're not going to take any of this with you, right? All of it's going to stay here. You're going to head out, and basically it's all for none, right? It's all for nothing. So Guru Gobind Singh talked about divinity in the previous verse, and here at the top he was talking about royalty and people, you know, amounting these mass treasuries and conquering different lands. He began that talking about different types of practice. Now we're going back to practice. And Guru Gobind Singh is saying, Tirath nana daya damdan. So Sanjam name anek basik hai. That you can do all these tirath, pilgrimages. Nan, meaning ishnan or bathing. Daya, compassion even. Daya, dhamma is controlling your indriya or your senses. Dan is charity. Sanjam is also related to a certain type of practice, whether that's controlling your senses or some type of purity. Neem is also just means basic your practice. Anek baseke, all these countless special different practices or rituals you can do, right? Now this is important because, again, like I was mentioning, it's not that Sikhs don't do some of these or have not even been told to do some of them. Like Tirath in the Ardas, Sikhs ask for the Tirath, the Darshan of Harmandir Sahib, and also the Ishnan of Harmandir Sahib, right? We say that, you know, Taram Daya Ka Put, that Daya is, you know, essentially the father of compassion, right? We partake in Dan, right? Guru Gobind Singh, Guru Nanak instructs us to, you know, work hard and from our earnings, you know, donate to people that need it, right? Dhamma and Sanjama, all of these types of practices, Thanda Pani Ishnan, etc., bathing with cold water, you know, all of these we do. It's just how do we do them? That's what Guru Gobind Singh is reorienting us with these types of verses, right? So I'm going to scroll up again to show you that without that ek rati, right? Without being fully just immersed in a kind of loving practice, right? Bhakti here serves as kind of a modal engagement, right? It's how you practice, right? You're altering the mode of engagement. That's what I mean here. That's the important thing. And without that, you can do all of these types of practices, but essentially it's all for none. He's going to continue on. He's going to say, Beda Purana Kateba Qurana Zameen Zaban Saban Ke Bekhe, right? That you can, Zameen Zaban Saban Ke Bekhe, you can go around traveling the entire world and see it all. You can read the Vedas, the Puranas, the Katib, so Semitic texts, the Quran. You can be a jati, a celibate. You can be a yogi who paun ahar, who just lives off of the wind. Essentially, this is, yogis used to talk about themselves in this way, where they could sustain themselves only by just breathing air. Jatatar, holding true to their celibacy. Sabay so bachar hajar ka dekhe. That Guru Gobind Singh is saying, I've seen thousands of these types of people, right? And then he says, Sri Bhagwan Paje Bin Pupat. And here they're translating this in the vocative, so they're saying, oh king. Again, this relates to the historical context. You can think of it as Guru Gobind Singh speaking to Ratnanrai. Now, I should have mentioned this before, but we have all of the stories related to Ratnanrai in the Suraj podcast. And if you want to listen to those, please see the link below. You can hear the conversations between Guru Gobind Singh and Ratnanrai. And here, Guru Gobind Singh in Svaiyye is saying, Sri Bhagwan Paje Bin, without the worship of Sri Bhagwan, right? Divinity. O king, ek rati bin ek na lekhe. Without being fully immersed in devotional practice, right? All of the above, it goes basically to zero, right? None of that goes on your lekha, right? And then if you look at that, the opposite could be true. And in fact, commentators from, texts like Sikhandi Bhagatamala have talked about that, right? Where they have talked about, they've asked Mani Singh about this conversation about, okay, if you have bhakti, then you are basically putting a one in front of any type of action. Now, what I mean by this is, if you just do all of those practices like we were looking at, so I'm just going to scroll up here. If you do all of these practices like this, right? Tirthanan, Diyadam Dan, it's basically, you're just putting a bunch of zeros, right? Without bhakti, or without devotional practice and seeing Paramatma and everything and everybody and then acting accordingly, once you do that, you're basically putting an eka one in front of all of these types of practices. And then whatever type of practice you do, if you want to do tirath, then well, you got this type of lekha, right? You're going to add nan to that, ishnan, you're going to add another zero, right? So it just multiplies. I mean, this is a kind of a funny explanation, but it really speaks to this point, right? You just keep adding them. It speaks to this idea that Guru Gobind Singh is writing about here, right? That ek rati bin, without that ek, right? Without that one immersive devotional practice, right? None of the other types of rituals or practices amount to anything. Now, it's a really important point that we're going to see throughout Guru Gobind Singh's writings, and especially during Akāl Ustati. So you even have, I wanted to show this line as well. In the next verse that we see, in the next verse that we see, you're going to see that this word fokat is going to come up a lot. And it's something that Guru Gobind Singh mentions quite a bit. Also, why this text is really related to Akāl Ustati. And we're going to get to that point likely in the next episode. So here it says, some people read the Quran, some people read the Puranas, but basically, none of that prevents them from being, from escaping death, right? That basically they're performing this type of fokat taram or karam, right? Fokat means essentially that without ras, right? We talked about being immersed in a devotional practice. It's that type of practice, which is essentially bringing ras, right? Bringing the essence, bringing a certain type of flavor, bringing amrit, right? And if you do that, and that is the real secret that Guru Gobind Singh talks about, that kind of foreshadowing at the end of this text. We're going to hear about an idea called, the Ped, right? The secret of the divine. And if we continue on, these verses, mind you, are from Bachitra Natak, right? So this is really important as well, because there's a lot of intra-textuality within Dasam Granth. And what I mean by that is you have different sections related to each other, right? You can find similar threads throughout the entire text. And this is one related to Fokat, Taram, right? This kind of without essence or without taste or without flavor type of action. And you also have this idea about the real secret of the divine is prema bhagati, right? And that's how you actually have this engagement, right, with divinity. That's actually also how you kind of escape death and kind of become immortal, right? So just very quickly, we'll go through this. It says, Kei kot mil part Qurana bachat kede Puran ajanna. That all, many type of people can read countlessly, right? The Purans or the Qurans, the unwise people will read the Puranas, etc. But basically, Antakal koi kamna ava, davakal kahuna bachava. That at the end of their life, they've not amounted to anything, they've not received anything, and basically they've not bachava, escaped from the tactics or this, let's say the noose of death, right? This doesn't mean noose. This means more like tactics or maneuvering of death. Then Guru Gobind Singh is going to say, Kyo, why? Najapo tanko tumapahi antakal jo ho sahai. So basically, why have you not recited, O brother, the divine name, Satanam antakal jo hoy sahai, that which will be, helpful, be your protector at the end of life. And again, this is important because he says, that basically understand all other types of action as fokat. Inate saratna koi karma, that they don't serve any purpose, basically. And this is important because it says, E karan prabh hame banayo. This is the reason, karan, that Prabhu, the divine, has made me, right? And then, again, this is within this section called the Bachitra Natak, the wondrous drama. And Guru Gobind Singh writes this mythic play, essentially a drama about being called into the presence of the divine. And the divine here is Ped Pak Iholok Batayo, has said, Pak, the Ped, the secret. Now this is, again, hold this thought as we go through this. The secret has been told to me by divinity, by Rab, Hari, Vaheguru, whatever name you like to use here. And he has sent me, Guru Gobind Singh saying, to this world. Jyotin kaha, whatever has said to me during that time. So sabr ucharahu, I'm reciting it to everybody. Demba vimba kashanak nakaru, but I'm not going to do any type of khandbazi, any type of hearsay or hypocrisy. There's nothing false in this, right? I'm telling you the secret, right? Which is the secret? That you should have a type of devotional practice, right? And frame everything within that. So we're going to hold on to this idea as we go through this. But now we're going again, speaking about kings and their armies, and if that's even worth anything. There's a beautiful line here. It says, Sudha sapaha durant dabaha susaj sanaha durjan dhalenge. That these sod here, I mean, it means pure, but if you use it as an adjective, you can kind of use that as here is sapaha, sapahi, the warriors, the very trained warriors. Durant here means prachand, mean very radiantly or kind of dazzling. The ba here actually, the ba here means warriors who in both hands have talwars, right? Who in both hands have swords. You might have seen depictions of even Baba Deep Singh like this, right? So Sad Sanaha, who have adorned, who have kind of put on Sanaha, armor on themselves. Dorjana Dalenge, who basically crush, Dalenge, who will be able to crush any type of enemy, right? Right, that within their mind they have such arrogance, right? They're so confident in their abilities that Karaparabat Pank Hale, that if the mountains grew wings, right, and they came on the battlefield, na halenge, that these guys wouldn't be afraid of that at all. They're ready to go, right? We'll knock mountains down, basically, right? Tor arin moror mawasan mati matangan mana malenge, right? They would basically tear, rip, and just wreck any type of arin enemies or rebels, basically. Mati matangan mana malenge. They'll be able to just smash these intoxicated elephants, right? The arrogance of them. They'll just wreck everybody on the battlefield. But even then, Guru Gobind Singh says, Sripat Sripa Kaban Kripa bin, without the grace of divinity, right? Tyaga Jahan Dadana Chalenge, they will leave this world and go to the afterlife, basically with nothing. Again, it's a lot of praise for these warriors. But again, he's saying, you can do all this, but if you don't do it in that frame of prema bhakti, in a kind of a devotional frame, then none of it really matters, right? And that's really important. Again, it says, Bir apar badde bariyar. You have these amazing warriors, right? Apar, endless. But here is using them as, it's innumerable. So many types of warriors. Badde bariyar. Just amazing, mighty heroes, right? This is such a brilliant line. Ab char hai sar ki tar pachhaiya. Pachhaiya, they'll eat. They'll eat the edge star of sar, of iron, right? Without even thinking. Abachar hai. So immediately, abachar hai, they'll just run out to the battlefield, right? And they'll just eat metal, essentially, right? No fear at all. Just totally confident. That they will basically wreck, they'll rip apart countries, right? Region. They'll just pound the enemies, right? They'll just destroy the enemies. Mavasan is like Akiyan, basically meaning rebels, those people who are kind of fortified. Mate Gajan, again, we talked about Gajan, plural for Gaj, meaning elephants or elephant. So this is intoxicated elephants. Geman Malaya, they'll basically crush the pride of these intoxicated elephants. Garde Garan ke Toran Har. So Garan, again, just like Gajan, Garda is fort, Garan forts, right? Plural, like Garde. So really heavily fortified forts. They are the ones to break heavily fortified forts, right? So Batan hi Chakchala Lavaya. Basically, just by their Batan, just by their sayings, by their commands, basically everybody on all sides of the world accept what they say. Saib Siri Sabko Saranaik. Jachikanek Soek Dvaya. So here you can interpret this in two different ways. At least Sahib, the master, the exalted master. Sabko Saranaik, everybody bows down to the exalted master. So there's talking about warriors who can do X, Y, and Z, just conquer the entire world. But basically, everybody has to bow down to divinity at the end of the day. Everybody has to bow down to death, right? At the end of the day, what he's talking about before. Death, also, Siddhi Sahib, right? Sikhs also call Talwar or Kharga or Pagoti, they also call that Siddhi Sahib, right? The sword is Siddhi Sahib. Also a synonym for death, right? So everybody bows down to death at the end of the time, or to Shastra, right? Jachika Nek, there's countless types of beggars. So Eka Dvaya, but there's only one type of donor, one type of giver, right? Danava Dev Faninda Nasachara. So actually this line, I'm going to show you how Rantir Singh in his commentary here, again, it's mainly just footnotes, so it's not a full commentary like we're looking at on the other screen. He says that the 7th, if you can see my cursor here, the 7th and 8th Svaiyye is related to the glory of the Khalsa. And that's one way we can think about this here, is where Guru Gobind Singh is listing all these different types of deities, Danava, the demons, etc., the Devtas, the serpents like Sheshnag, etc., ghosts, Nisachara, basically those types of beings that come out at night. That all of these people will recite the glory of the Khalsa, right? Jiva jathe jalme thalme palhi palme sab thap tapenge. That because of the glory of the Khalsa, because how virtuous and victorious the Khalsa will be, Jiva jathe jalme thalme palhi palme sab thap tapenge, that they will be established all types of beings, right? In the water, on the earth. In a moment, all of these types of entities, right, are going to be nourished by the Khalsa, right? You're going to see a flourishing of the world because of the Khalsa. Pun Pratapun Bada Jata Tun. So the Tun of Jit, right, of victory, will, sound off. Pun Pratapun, so the glorious, the praises basically of the virtues of the Khalsa will kind of expand greatly. Papan ke baho punja khapenge, basically punja and papan. So the great vast collections of sin basically will burn away, will be destroyed, just because the Khalsa is around. But what would also happen there? Sad smu prasan prejag. The Sads, the Khalsa, here, all of them, prasan, very happily, fere jag, they'll roam around the whole world. But satara sabe avaloka chapenge, right? All of the enemies will look at them. Chapenge will be basically just burning up inside, right? It bugs them that the Khalsa is just roaming around the whole world in Anand, right? In prasantas. So, and then he continues, he says, this also is related to the Khalsa. He says, Manav Indra Gajendra Nadarab Jont Loko Raj Karenge, that they will do the Raj of the three worlds, right? Over all these types of people, men in the heavens, or Indra, Gajendra, etc. So Indra has, Indra has a elephant, and that's what it's in reference to here. Basically, all these different types of deities, even Kuber, etc., all of them will be ruled by the Khalsa. Kot isanan gajad kadan anek swambar saj banenge, that they will perform all these types of great ishnan, all these different types of kind of sacrifices as well, helping people, dan, charity. They're going to construct all these. Swambar is basically a self-marriage ceremony, but again, it's representative of like kings who would perform this. These are all just elements that kings do. That kings will do all this, right? The Khalsa will do, perform the rule of the world. Brahm Hesan and Bisan Sachipat. Sachipat meaning Indra. That you have Indra, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, right? The three main deities, and then you have Indra. Look in contrast to the Khalsa. These people, that these high deities, right, that people pray to, at the end of their life, they will have the noose of death around their neck, basically, right? But in contrast to all these deities, the Khalsa says, Je nar siri patake prasahe pagate nar fe na dehe tarenge. That if any person, right, siri patake prasahe pag, if they basically grasp, if they fall at the feet of Siripat, the exalted divine, then they will be liberated. They will not take another, another body in this life again. And here, Guru Gobind Singh, again, these are the last two verses. They're going to end with talking about different types of practice and saying, so what? It's a very common phrase that Guru Gobind Singh used. Kahan payo? So what? What have you got? Jo do lochin the moon ke. This is brilliant, because spirituality really, if you think about spirituality, kind of the image of spirituality, you think about people sitting there with their eyes closed, right? Bat rahio, saying seated, bakatiyan lagayo, basically like a crane, right? Who has their contemplation just fixated. But he's saying, so what if you do this, right? So what if that is your practice? If it's not oriented, again, within prema bhakti, without kind of a devotional, loving relationship with divinity, and again, divinity not meaning just an abstract idea about divine sitting in svarg in heaven, but actually related to every single person, every type of person in the world, right? So here he says, so what if you're sitting there with your eyes closed, with your contemplation like a crane? And the crane metaphor or kind of imagery is used here because cranes, they're white, first of all, so they're kind of symbolic of purity, but they're also symbolic of those people who dress up like they're pure, and they're sitting there and they have their contemplation fixated, but then all of a sudden they kind of throw their beak down and they end up killing a fish, right? So they prey on those people that are basically accepting of their kind of spirituality, of their dhyan, basically the contemplation, right? So it's imagery that's used for people who are hypocrites, etc., taking advantage of people as well, like fake sons and stuff. And then Guru Gobind Singh says, Nat Priyo Lai Sad Samundaran Lokayo Pralokavaya, that you can go bathe at all these different types of spots, right? Up into the seven seas, Sad Samundaran, right? You can go through all the different oceans and all the different pilgrimage sites. But basically, Lokagayo, so you've wasted this life, Paralokagvayo, and you've also kind of wasted the next as well. Baaskiyo Bikyanso Batke, that you can spend your time sitting in the forest, essentially. Aise hi aso bas batayo, right? And you can spend your whole life in this way. Aise hi, right? Bas, life, batayo, kind of spend your life. But he's saying, Sach kaho, I'm saying the truth here. Sun leho sabe, everybody listen to me, right? Sach kaho, I'm saying the truth. Sun, listen. Leho sabe, everybody listen to this. Jin prem kiyo tanhi prab paya, that those people who have performed devotional practice, those people who have loved divinity, then he prabhaya, those people are the ones who obtain the divine, right? Those are the people who actually get that perspective that Guru Gobind Singh was having before, right? That Sarabkal Sarbar Thor Ek Se Lagd Ho, right? That last line of the previous verse. Those people obtain that perspective, right? That divine perspective that sees divinity within all types of people, even the type of people that you would associate with, let's say, vice, etc., right? So very, very important line, really frames this text as we go forward. Kahun le pahana puja tariyo sir, kahun le ling gare latkaya. So some people, kahun kise ne, some people worship, puj, pahan, stones, right? Idols, imagery. Other people worship, or other people basically hang, latkayo, ling, right? The Shiv ling. So a phallus associated with Shiva. The imagery is symbolic of Shiva. Some people hang that on a necklace around their neck, right? So people do all these types of things. Some people bow to the east. Kahu lakyo har avachi dise mein, right? Kaho pacha ko sis namayo. Other people, some people, pacha, piche, right? Go backwards. They're bowing their head backwards, right? To the other direction. Remember, the Guru Gobind Singh is writing this in India. Backwards, instead of the east, is the west. So he's talking about Indic, right? Suraj Namaskar, bowing towards the east when the sun is rising, and also bowing towards the west, towards Kaaba, right? So Indic practice, Islamic practice, some people are doing all these things, right? Other idiots, pasu, ko batan ko pujat hai pas, right? Idiots, some of them worship stones, right? Bhutan. Other people like run to worship their ancestors, Mirtan. But he says, that sab hi jag, the whole world is entangled. Urjo, right? Urjana means to be entangled in. What are they entangled in? False kriya, false action, right? They're just obsessed with just performing X practice, Y practice, right? But they're not framing the practice properly, right? They've not actually engaged in divinity with a loving devotion, right? And that is Sri Bhagwan ko pedana paya. They've not obtained payo, the ped, basically the essence, the secret of the divine, Sri Bhagwan, right? And again, what was that secret Guru Gobind Singh is talking about? That secret has been told to Guru Gobind Singh. He's writing in Bhajitranath. And what is it? It's related to this. Right? And moving away from Fokat Dharam, right? Just rastless, or let's say essenceless, kind of flavorless action, right? What is the flavor? Flavor arrives, this experience arrives from devotional practice, right? And that's what we're looking at in this verse, in this section. As we move forward in the next Tomara Chand, that's another different type of Chand meter. It's also going to end, spoiler alert, related to this idea about Sava Karma Fokat Jan, that understand all types of action as Fokat, without ras, without essence, without worth. Saba Dharma Nefal Man, that understand Man, that all other types of dharam, all other types of religious practice is nefal, is fruitless, right? Literally fruitless. Bin ek naam adar, without the support of the one name, right? Now name here relates to devotional practice. Without that devotional practice, sabha karma parama vichar. Understand, think about it, that all other action as illusionary, right? It's just an illusion. It's not worth anything. So that wraps up our exploration of Svaiyye, and join us next time as we look at the Tuai Prasaad Tomana Chand.